It began on a morning so quiet that even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Over every city, every ocean, and every forgotten valley, the air shimmered, like heat waves on metal. People looked up. Some pointed their phones. Some froze. And then the sky spoke. People of Earth, your resistance is illogical. You will surrender your world within one rotation cycle. Compliance ensures survival. Defiance ensures extinction. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It came from everywhere. Inside car radios, across the clouds, within the pulse of the Earth itself. Every satellite, every frequency, every whispering current of electricity carried it. The world stood still. In New York, a delivery driver named Eli Ward stopped his van in the middle of an intersection. In Tokyo, a schoolteacher named Aya Nakamura dropped her chalk and stared at the ceiling. In Nairobi, a boy selling fruit on a street corner looked up at the strange glow forming in the sky. An enormous spiral of light, breathing like a living thing. And in the control room of the United Nations Orbital Defense Command, General Elena Torres clenched her jaw until it hurt. "Replay it," she ordered. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled slightly on the console. The transmission echoed again through the room, that cold, emotionless voice repeating its demand for surrender. Around her, a dozen officers and analysts exchanged silent, frightened glances. "Where's it coming from?" she asked. "Everywhere," replied Lieutenant Mason. "It's piggybacking on our own network signals like it's been waiting for us to listen." Elena's eyes flicked to the orbital feed. Above Earth, 500 kilometers up, something massive was blocking the stars. It wasn't a single ship. It was an armada, an ocean of silent shapes gliding through space like shadows with edges of silver. The Veiled Dominion, Humanity would later call them. News spread faster than breath. Panic rippled through the cities like a fever. Some prayed, some rioted, some refused to believe. Politicians gathered in emergency chambers. Scientists demanded time. Soldiers loaded weapons they knew would never be enough, and yet, something strange happened. Amid the fear, laughter rose. Quiet at first, then louder. It started online. Clips of people mocking the alien ultimatum. A video of a farmer in Kansas holding up a shotgun to the sky, yelling, "You'll have to take my cows first." A child drawing pictures of humans shaking hands with glowing aliens and writing, "We won't give up." That laughter spread faster than the panic. It wasn't denial. It was defiance. By midnight, Elena stood before the joint command of Earth's defense leaders. Her uniform was unpressed, her eyes rimmed red, but her voice was steady. "They think fear will break us," she said. "They don't understand what we've survived to get here. We've fought each other for centuries and still stand. We've rebuilt cities from ash, cured diseases that once erased nations, and walked on our own moon. Surrender isn't in our DNA." The room was silent except for the faint hum of distant generators. Then someone, an old admiral from India, nodded slowly. "Then we make them understand." A single word was agreed upon to send back through the same frequencies the aliens used. "No." That one syllable, small, defiant, and entirely human, was broadcast across the stars. High above, in the shadow of the alien fleet, Vial Commander Thren Kavor watched the transmission with interest. His species had conquered dozens of worlds. No planet had ever said no. "What does it mean?" one of his lieutenants asked. Thren's pale eyes narrowed. "It means," he said softly, "they do not understand inevitability." He turned to his command screen, watching as Earth's defense satellites powered on one by one. Tiny, defiant sparks against the endless dark. "They will learn," he murmured. "Pain teaches clarity." On the surface, Eli Ward drove his van through silent streets, headlights slicing through a dark sky where alien lights burned like strange constellations. His radio buzzed with fragmented voices, neighbors organizing, strangers volunteering, laughter mixing with fear. He smiled, despite the tremor in his chest. Maybe Earth had no chance. Maybe humanity's weapons were pebbles against a storm, but they would fight. He looked up, whispering to the glowing horizon. "You picked the wrong species to threaten, and somewhere, above all the fear, beyond all the static, humanity's heartbeat quickened, not in terror, but in defiance." The countdown had begun. The night sky over Earth had never looked like this before, not even during meteor showers. not even when satellites blinked in their silent orbits. Tonight it burned. Silver shapes shimmered like molten glass, hovering in patterns that defied human understanding. Every fleet of lights, every hum of energy, made hearts pound in every city, town, and village. In Paris, Julien Martel, a young astrophysicist, clutched his telescope, unable to tear his eyes away. His lab was filled with papers, computers, and half-finished experiments, but tonight none of that mattered. The sky was alive with something that meant to erase them, and yet no one ran, not all of them. Across the globe, humans rose from fear and confusion and did something that startled even themselves. They fought. They adapted. They became the very unpredictability that no alien species had ever encountered. The first attack came without warning. In the skies over Tokyo, a massive orb of shimmering energy descended like a predator, slicing through the atmosphere with a sound that made the city tremble. Residents screamed, cars screeched to a halt, and buildings shuddered under the invisible pressure. But humans reacted with ingenuity. Engineers activated defense drones, even repurposing old satellites and communication arrays to launch electrical pulses at the descending vessel. Soldiers fired anti-aircraft guns at impossible angles. Even civilians improvised fireworks, high-voltage lines, makeshift lasers, anything that could disrupt the alien technology. And it worked. The orb hesitated midair, sparks cascading along its surface before retreating into the shadows above. The streets erupted, not with panic, but with cheering. Humanity had fought back. Humanity had struck first. In New York, General Elena Torres watched the unfolding battle through augmented reality feeds. Her fingers moved over holographic displays, coordinating response teams with precision that was almost poetic. She had spent decades preparing for a hypothetical first contact, but nothing in any manual could have prepared her for this. The raw determination of her people. She thought of Eli Ward, driving through empty streets with his flashlight guiding strangers to shelters. She thought of doctors in London risking their lives to maintain hospitals amidst chaos. She thought of children whispering prayers that weren't for survival but for courage. And in that moment, she realized something terrifying for the aliens and beautiful for humanity. Earth didn't just resist, Earth adapted. Meanwhile, Commander Thren Kavor studied Earth's response with growing unease. His species had never met resistance like this. Worlds had yielded at the first pulse of their weaponry. Entire civilizations had surrendered without question. But Earth laughed. And worse, they fought. They are unpredictable, Thren admitted, voice low, almost reverent. They defy logic. His lieutenants exchanged uneasy glances. Some were shocked, some afraid. But all were learning a truth that would ripple through their species for generations. Then we escalate, Thren said, eyes narrowing. We show them the certainty of dominance. Across the planet, humanity's defiance wasn't just strategic, it was deeply human. Families held together in apartment stairwells sharing water and courage. Communities formed impromptu defense lines. Strangers became comrades in a heartbeat, united by a single thought: we will not surrender. Aya Nakamura, the schoolteacher in Tokyo, had gathered children in the corner of a battered gymnasium. With trembling hands, she painted symbols of protection and hope on the walls, telling stories of past heroes who had risen against impossible odds. We are small, she said softly, but even the smallest flame can burn the night away. Her students nodded, clutching pencils, sticks, and anything they could use. And somehow in that moment, fear became fuel. As the first dawn approached, the alien fleet unleashed a coordinated strike across multiple continents. Energy beams carved through cities, freezing clouds into shimmering ice, igniting fires and forests. The scale of destruction was almost unimaginable, but humanity endured. Humans improvised shelters, dug trenches, and repurposed ordinary machines into extraordinary weapons. Even the sky itself became an ally. Satellites and global communications formed a tangled web of interference that baffled alien sensors. In Kansas, Eli Ward's farm became a command hub of its own, wired with scavenged electronics, guiding aircraft and drones across the plains. They think they can overwhelm us, he shouted into a microphone. But we're humans. They don't know how stubborn we are. And somewhere above all the chaos, the alien commander began to hesitate. For the first time, the certainty of conquest wavered. And when the sun rose, it revealed a battered Earth, cities scarred, forests smoking, but alive. Humans emerged from shelters, some limping, some crying, but all with eyes wide open. They had survived the first wave. They had struck back. And deep inside every human, from soldiers to children, burned a single, unshakable thought: we will never surrender. Even as the alien armada regrouped above, the Earth itself seemed to pulse with defiance, a heartbeat that no weapon could silence. The fire in the sky had come, and humans had stared it down, not with fear but with laughter, ingenuity, and courage. And that was the moment the veiled Dominion realized. These humans were something entirely different. The fires had faded, but the echoes of destruction lingered. Across Earth, silence settled, not the peaceful silence of dawn, but the tense, aching quiet that follows survival. Cities smoked, forests smoldered, and the air carried the sharp tang of fear and courage mixed together. In a hospital in Berlin, Dr. Lena Weiss walked between the rows of wounded. She was tired, every muscle aching, every thought raw. Children who had laughed just days before now stared at her with wide, haunted eyes. Parents clutched each other, their hands shaking as if by holding on tightly they could hold back the terror. But Lena saw something else. Even through the exhaustion, the fear, the tears, there was something remarkable. People refusing to break. People refusing to give in. She knelt beside a boy no older than 10, his arm wrapped in bandages, his face streaked with soot. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're still here." The boy blinked slowly, then whispered back, voice small but defiant, "I'm not afraid. Not anymore." It was the same everywhere. Humanity's fear had been real, but so was their courage. In New Delhi, Rajiv Malhotra, a firefighter, guided a group of strangers through a crumbling building. They were terrified, stumbling over debris, coughing through smoke. But Rajiv kept speaking. His words were simple, practical, grounding. Step by step. One foot in front of the other. We make it out together. Somehow his calm determination spread. People who had thought themselves alone, helpless, began to move as one. They carried each other. They protected each other. And even when the alien strikes resumed hours later, silent, precise and terrifying, they met it with resourcefulness, improvising shelters, redirecting energy, and using every ounce of human ingenuity. High above, Commander Thren Kavor observed the chaos below. Unlike before, when attacks had met simple countermeasures, this time he saw patterns that confused his calculations. Humans were unpredictable not only in their technology, but in their will. They cling to life, and to each other, Thren murmured. His pale eyes, usually cold and calculating, betrayed a flicker of curiosity. "It is illogical, yet fascinating," his lieutenants muttered nervously. "They should not have survived," one said. "Their species is weak, weak," Thren repeated. "Perhaps, but weakness is not courage, and courage drives chaos in ways no algorithm can predict." On the front lines of America's Midwest, Eli Ward worked through the night in his improvised command hub. Farmers, engineers, and ordinary citizens gathered, forming units of resistance that moved faster than military squads, thinking in ways that machines couldn't anticipate. A young woman named Cassie Miller, who had never fired a weapon in her life, guided a drone strike with precision that astonished Eli. Her calm voice over the radio, 3 meters left, hold, fire, became a rallying cry for all who were terrified yet determined to fight. For every building the aliens destroyed, humans rebuilt or rerouted, often before the enemy even realized. They scavenged, repurposed, and innovated, and as dawn broke over the battered plains, they laughed. Not mockingly, but in defiance and joy in the pure stubbornness of survival. But the cost was heavy. Families mourned, cities mourned. Children cried out for parents who wouldn't return. Survivors carried the weight of loss alongside the exhilaration of resistance. Humans were fragile, yes. They could be broken. But even broken, they inspired awe. Elena Torres moved through the command center, watching operators monitor global defenses. She paused at a feed showing a small village in Chile, where survivors had lit fires to signal other settlements. The village elders were holding children in their arms, teaching them songs that had survived centuries. "We are here," they sang. "We endure. We rise." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. She whispered, This is why we fight. Not for victory alone, but for the heart that will never yield." For the first time, humans weren't just a species to the Veiled Dominion. They were an experience. Something the aliens could analyze endlessly yet never fully grasp. Thren Kavor's eyes lingered on Earth. "They cling to hope," he said softly. "And hope is not logical. But it is powerful, far more than we predicted. Even as new threats loomed, alien reinforcements, orbital bombardments, and technology far beyond human understanding, the people of Earth held fast. Fear still whispered in the shadows, but humanity's heartbeat rang louder. From the smallest child to the oldest warrior, one truth echoed across every battlefield. Every ruined street and every quiet room, we endure, we fight. And we do not surrender. And somewhere deep in space, Thren realized a terrifying truth. Victory might not come from force alone. On Earth, something else was alive. Something unquantifiable. Something that even the most advanced species could never predict. It was humanity. The night sky had grown darker, not from clouds or smoke, but from the presence of the alien fleet. Massive and silent, hovering like a storm of impossible scale. And yet, Earth refused to tremble. In the plains of Kansas, Eli Ward stood at the edge of his farmhouse roof, binoculars in hand, watching shadows move above the horizon. They had struck again yesterday, more precise, more devastating. But for every assault, humanity had adapted. Every strategy the aliens had counted on had been met with innovation, improvisation, and stubborn human defiance. "Do you ever wonder if we're crazy?" asked Cassie Miller, crouching beside him, wires and monitors spread across the barn floor. "I mean, we're basically throwing ourselves at a super-advanced armada with improvised tech." Eli smiled, squinting into the distance. "Crazy? Maybe. But maybe they've never met people who refuse to quit. That's something no laser, no shield, no algorithm can predict. And that was exactly it. Humans weren't winning by strength. They were winning by unpredictability, creativity, and an unshakable refusal to submit." Across Europe, Julian Martel coordinated a network of amateur astronomers and engineers. Using old satellites, radio signals, and civilian drones, they mapped the alien fleet's movements in real time. Every miscalculation the aliens made was an opportunity, an advantage that no one on the Dominion had foreseen. "It's like they're learning as we fight," Julian muttered to his assistant. "Except, they don't know we already learn faster. They're trapped in their logic. We aren't." The alien commander, Thren Kavor, realized it too. For the first time, his fleet hesitated. Patterns that once seemed predictable now fractured under the relentless ingenuity of humanity. "They adapt faster than expected," Thren admitted. "Their unpredictability? It is dangerous." In Tokyo, Aya Nakamura guided children and volunteers to protect neighborhoods from energy strikes. Using makeshift reflectors, underground tunnels, and improvised alarms, they diverted alien attacks before they hit their targets. Small victories, almost invisible to the grand scale of the war, began to accumulate into something remarkable. Even minor successes were celebrated. A child's laughter echoed down a dim street when a small alien probe was knocked out by a swinging power line. A farmer in Kenya rigged a water pump to short a hovering drone. These were not just acts of survival, they were statements. We will not be controlled, and with each defiance, the alien commander's calculations faltered. On the Global Command Bridge, Elena Torres addressed her teams. "They think overwhelming force will break us. They believe their numbers are enough, their technology unstoppable, but they don't understand something. We have always known. Humans fight best when the odds are impossible." Holographic map displayed the first organized counterattacks, coordinated strikes using civilian and military resources together, exploiting weaknesses in alien formations. Earth had learned. Earth had adapted. And now, Earth was striking back. "Execute Operation Hearthfire," Elena commanded. Thousands of miles above, Thren Kavor observed, "They are striking strategically," he said, voice tight. "We must recalibrate." A series of flashes disrupted his console. Satellites had been hacked, orbital drones rerouted, alien energy beams deflected back at their own ships. The Vial Dominion's superior technology, which had seemed invincible, was being undermined by ingenuity, courage, and sheer unpredictability. They are chaotic," his lieutenant said, trembling. "Our strategies are useless." Thren's eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps it is time to confront them. Directly." Out on the ground, humanity celebrated small victories, but no one allowed themselves the luxury of hubris. Each success fueled confidence, yes, but also a deeper determination. They had learned that defiance alone wasn't enough. They needed unity, courage, and cleverness in every action. Communities shared resources, coordinated defense plans, and improvised constantly. People who had never met worked together as if guided by some invisible force, a pulse that made ordinary humans extraordinary. Even Eli and Cassie, working late into the night, realized the truth. Humanity wasn't just surviving. Humanity was thriving in the chaos. As dawn broke again, fires still smoked and cities bore scars, but the tides had turned. Alien forces that once swooped in with certainty now faltered, confused by Earth's unpredictable countermeasures. And everywhere, human voices carried the same defiant truth, whispered or shouted across rooftops, battlefields, and underground tunnels. "We do not surrender. We do not break. We will endure." Thren Kavor stared at the horizon. For the first time, doubt flickered in his mind. Perhaps this species, small, fragile, and entirely illogical, was more dangerous than any weapon his fleet could wield. And Earth, battered but unbowed, waited for the next wave, not with fear, but with courage. The turning tide had begun. Victory had a smell. It was not of roses or triumph, it was of smoke, ash, and the sharp tang of blood. Across the planet, humanity celebrated small victories, but every cheer was shadowed by loss. Cities had crumbled, forests burned, and families vanished in the blink of alien energy. Defiance was powerful, but it came at a price. In Berlin, Dr. Lena Weiss walked past rows of empty beds, each one a silent reminder of those who hadn't survived the latest strike. Children who had once laughed now whispered their sorrow, holding tightly to memories that seemed too fragile to bear. She stopped by a window, staring at the devastated city below. Smoke spiraled into the sky, mingling with the alien fleet's shimmering presence. Lena pressed her forehead to the glass. "We fight," she whispered. "We endure. But how many more?" Naonatsukidama is thousands of miles away. Aya Nakamura helped a young boy carry a wounded neighbor to a makeshift shelter. His small hands trembled, not from fear of the aliens, but from exhaustion and grief. "Why do they keep coming?" he asked softly. Aya knelt beside him. "Because we fight," she said. "Because we don't give up. Because hope is stronger than any weapon." The boy's eyes widened, absorbing the weight of her words. He nodded slowly, a spark of courage igniting amidst the sorrow. Humanity was tired, scared, and broken, but not defeated. Even the bravest struggled. Eli Ward had lost friends, neighbors who had been his team, his comrades in the defense of the Midwest. Some had been taken by alien strikes. Others had vanished in the chaos of evacuation. He buried his grief beneath layers of work, wiring drones, coordinating counterattacks, and sending messages to scattered resistance units. Cassie Miller, who had once joked about the absurdity of fighting the alien armada with scavenged tools, now stood silently by his side. Her eyes were heavy with fatigue, but her determination burned brighter than ever. "Every life we save, it matters," she said quietly. "Even when the world falls apart, it still matters." Eli nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Then we keep going, no matter the cost." The alien commander, Thren Kavor, observed Earth with a mix of fascination and confusion. He had expected submission, but humans had given him chaos, unpredictability, and resilience. And now he saw their vulnerability. "They bleed," he said to his lieutenants. "They falter. Their hearts, their emotions. It makes them fragile. But it also strengthens them." One lieutenant frowned. "Fragile is fragile. Their losses should break them." Thren's eyes, pale and unyielding, reflected a strange understanding. "No, their losses make them human. And that is something we cannot control." Across the Pacific, in the ruins of what had been a thriving coastal city, Rajiv Malhotra coordinated rescue teams through rubble and debris. Families were separated. Children cried out for parents who would never return. Entire blocks had vanished in energy strikes that left no trace. Yet, in the face of devastation, Rajiv saw resilience. Volunteers carried supplies through broken streets. Survivors formed chains to pull rubble from trapped neighbors. Strangers shared water and warmth, offering comfort where there had once been despair. It was a harsh truth. Humanity was vulnerable. And yet that vulnerability made them stronger, more connected and more relentless. Even in the command centers, leaders faced moral torment. Decisions meant life or death for thousands. Every strike they launched against the alien fleet risked civilian casualties. Every delay meant more destruction on the ground. The weight of the world pressed on shoulders already frayed by exhaustion. Elena Torres paused in the war room, staring at a holographic map dotted with casualties and strikes. Her hand hovered over the console, knowing every command carried consequences, and still she pressed forward guided by a single truth. We cannot surrender. We cannot falter, not now. That night, humanity gathered in silence. Cities, towns, and villages held vigils for those lost. Fires burned in remembrance. Candles flickered against the dark. Across continents, voices rose in unison. Songs of hope, of mourning, of resilience. Even in grief, there was courage. Even in despair, there was unity. Humans understood something no alien fleet could predict. Strength was not in invulnerability, but in enduring pain, mourning loss, and continuing to fight. And somewhere above the planet, Threnkavor observed, silently acknowledging a truth he could not reconcile. The cost of defiance was high, and yet humanity did not break. They would bleed. They would grieve. They would hurt, but they would never surrender. The price of defiance was terrible. And yet, it was what made humans unstoppable. The night was quiet, but not peaceful. Above Earth, the alien fleet lingered like a predator circling prey, their ships glinting under the faint light of the planet below, and yet humanity was far from powerless. In the small city of Calgary, Leah Morgan, a systems engineer, tapped rapidly on a console cobbled together from old satellites, drones, and salvaged military hardware. Beside her, volunteers connected wires and antennas, creating a network that the aliens could not anticipate. They'll never see this coming, Leah said, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and excitement. We're about to turn their assumptions against them. Her team smiled, exhausted but determined. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Humanity's spark wasn't in technology alone, it was in ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to obey the rules of a species that believed logic always wins. Across the Atlantic, Julianne Martel coordinated another strike. Amateur astronomers tracked alien formations, feeding live data to resistance networks. Civilians worked alongside soldiers, creating unpredictable attacks that made every alien calculation uncertain. For the first time, the Veiled Dominion faced an enemy that adapted faster than their most advanced algorithms could predict. Every time they adjusted their strategies, humans were already one step ahead, improvising, innovating, and refusing to surrender. This is not possible, one Vial lieutenant muttered, voice tight with frustration. They are, everywhere at once. They are human, Threnkavor said softly, and humans are chaos incarnate. They are not meant to be predictable. On the front lines, Eli Ward directed teams of civilians and soldiers, using scavenged drones, improvised electromagnets, and even reflections from mirrors. They disrupted alien sensors. Small explosions, carefully timed, cascaded into confusion across the enemy fleet. Cassie Miller leaned over a control panel, her hand steady despite exhaustion. Look at this, she said. We can force them to split their formation. Every ship they send against us becomes weaker. Eli nodded. Every time they expect fear, we give them defiance. Every time they expect surrender, we give them strategy. It was not brute strength that made humanity formidable. It was the spark of unpredictability, the ingenuity and courage that refused to yield. No matter how impossible the odds, in Tokyo, Aya Nakamura taught children and volunteers to use their environment creatively. Fires reflected alien energy beams harmlessly into the sky. Underground tunnels redirected their attacks. Communities worked as a single organism, adapting in real time, finding opportunity in chaos. Even the smallest acts mattered. A child's laughter distracted a hovering drone for just long enough for a rescue team to act. A farmer's homemade device disrupted a probe's sensors. Together, these sparks formed a blaze that the alien fleet could not comprehend. High above, Thren Kavor's pale eyes studied the battlefield. Every calculation, every algorithm, every plan was failing. Humans were illogical, resourceful, and relentless. They did not fear. They did not despair. They adapted. They are remarkable, Thren admitted to his lieutenants. Every strike we launch, every plan we devise, it is met with something we cannot anticipate. They are more than flesh and blood, they are fire. And fire spreads. The fleet shifted, cautious now. Uncertainty had entered their ranks. For the first time, the aliens faced hesitation. On the ground, humans continued to innovate. Communities shared resources across continents using improvised networks. Engineers hacked drones, farmers repurposed machinery. Children carried messages through dangerous streets. Every act of defiance became part of a larger strategy, a symphony of human ingenuity that pulsed across the planet. Eli looked over a map of global operations, dotted with small victories, unexpected disruptions and daring rescues. "This is it," he whispered. "This is the spark that will turn the tide." Cassie glanced at him, nodding. "Not just a spark," she said softly. "A fire." Above, Thren Kavor considered the planet below. He had expected compliance. He had expected fear. But what he saw was neither. Earth was alive. Humans were alive, and they were fighting. Not just with weapons, but with spirit, courage, and the most dangerous force in the universe: unpredictability. The human spark had become a blaze. And no fleet, no technology, no cold logic could extinguish it. The sky was a battlefield. Fires burned across cities. Oceans reflected the alien fleet's harsh silver light, and the air thrummed with the tension of two species at the brink of annihilation. Yet Earth had changed. Humans were no longer merely surviving. They were fighting as one, unpredictable, resilient, and defiant. In the ruins of New York, General Elena Torres stood on a rooftop overlooking a devastated skyline. Her uniform was scorched, her face streaked with soot and exhaustion, yet her eyes burned brighter than any spotlight. "They think this ends us," she said into her radio. "They've never seen what humans are capable of. They've never faced the fire that burns in every one of us." Across the world, millions listened. Soldiers, volunteers, children, the elderly, all united in defiance. Every strike they coordinated, every improvised weapon deployed, every life saved, was a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Above, the vile Dominion fleet faltered. Commander Thren Kavor had never seen a species so unwilling to yield. Each wave of attacks that should have crushed resistance instead revealed something unexpected. Courage was stronger than technology, defiance more powerful than fear. "They are unbreakable," he murmured to his lieutenants, voice tight. "Their spirit, it cannot be quantified, cannot be destroyed." And in that moment, he understood something that would haunt his species for generations. Humans did not fight only to survive. They fought to define themselves, to claim their existence, and to refuse submission. On the ground, Eli Ward and Cassie Miller directed the final wave of Earth's counterattack. Makeshift weapons, repurposed satellites, and coordinated strikes disrupted alien energy shields. Drones and civilians alike executed daring maneuvers that no algorithm could anticipate. "Every time they expect fear, we give them courage," Eli said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Every time they expect surrender, we give them defiance." Cassie smiled, tired but fierce. "Then let's finish this. Not with anger, not with hate, but with what makes us human: courage, ingenuity, and heart." Across oceans and continents, humans united in one final act of coordinated resistance. Cities that had once been silent now pulsed with signals, improvised communications, and coordinated strikes. Survivors rescued neighbors from rubble, repaired weapons in record time, and guided drones with impossible precision. Humanity's unpredictability had become a weapon stronger than any alien technology. Even the smallest acts mattered. Children redirected probes with mirrors. Engineers caused chain reactions that disabled entire enemy formations. Farmers detonated improvised electromagnetic pulses that scattered alien ships. Each spark, each maneuver, fueled a blaze that spread across the globe. Kavor's fleet faltered under the onslaught. His calculations, once flawless, were rendered useless. His weapons, once precise, struck empty skies, and everywhere he looked, humans refused to yield. "They do not fear death," he said, voice low and awed. "They do not seek power, they seek existence. And in that, they are unstoppable." For the first time, the Dominion realized that some forces could not be subdued, no matter how advanced, no matter how terrifying. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something larger: freedom, identity, and the right to defy the impossible. As the last alien formations retreated, humanity did not cheer immediately. They had survived, but the cost had been immense. Cities lay in ruin, millions mourned the lost, and scars ran deep in every heart. And yet, humanity stood. In Berlin, Lena Weiss embraced children who had survived, whispering words of comfort through tears. In Tokyo, Aya Nakamura held a young boy close, smiling through exhaustion. In Kansas, Eli Ward and Cassie Miller watched the sky, battered but unbowed, knowing that the fire they had kindled could never be extinguished. From orbit, Kavor looked at the planet below, scarred, bruised, and defiant. He had expected obedience. He had expected fear. What he saw instead was something he could not destroy, could not comprehend: humanity's heart. "They will endure," he whispered, "and they will never surrender." And on Earth, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the planet exhaled. Not with relief, but with pride. Humans had faced the impossible, laughed at extinction, and stood together as one. They were not invincible, but they were unstoppable in spirit. The war had revealed a truth stronger than any weapon, more lasting than any victory: defiance is immortal. In the quiet that followed, humanity rebuilt, not only cities and technology, but courage, hope, and faith in each other. They knew the universe might never again be kind, that threats might return, and that fear would always exist. But they had discovered something eternal. Their spirit could never be conquered, and so, as the sun rose over the battered but unbroken earth, humans looked to the sky and smiled, because they had laughed in defiance, and that laughter would echo across the stars forever.